who was high up in the president's cabinet as an advisor that got the ear of Truman and said, Mr. President, we have to drop the bomb.
Your professor said that?
My professor, you have to drop the bomb because this will save millions of American lives. Because the Japanese are not willing to give up. They will fight to the end for their emperor. We have to make it seem as though if you continue this is going to be the annihilation of your people. And it was a tough decision. One which Myers, for years, even when he was my professor, he regretted but didn't regret. Because he understood that it did save a lot of American lives, but at the cost of millions of Japanese people's lives. Because there are people to this day. The war ended 71 years ago. So we understand, and the person that's in the power seat is the person who's the offerer. Because the offerer is the one that's giving the offer, giving the promise, is making the promise. We as lawyers, we as paralegals look at the entire contract to see if there is a point where something went off the wall. Because if I said to you, blue, and you went through the contract thinking that I meant the color blue,
Yeah.
okay, then we have a problem. Because it will go back to me and say, well, when you said blue, what did you mean? Did you mean the color blue, or did you mean the past tense of the word blow? I knew what I meant. Your answer, your response, should have said, no, wait, you misunderstood me. I didn't mean the color blue. I mean, how do you say the past tense of the word blow? Then we're now together. Now we're together. But if I knew that by me saying that you were going to say Zulu and it benefits me, that's where we have problems. That's where lawyers come in. That's where we come in as paralegals to come in and manipulate and say, okay, wait a minute, hold on, time out. Wait a minute. What was the contract on? The third party would look at that and say, hey, wait a minute. You, Mr. Offerer, you made an offer. However, your statement was a little manipulative. You knew that you expected this person to come out with an answer or come out with an understanding. Your communication was going to be understood this way. But you didn't do anything to stop that miscommunication. So therefore, as a reasonable person, I'm stepping back, I'm saying, well, you're the master of the offer. You didn't make it clear, so therefore you're more at fault than the offeree who breached the contract. Because the breach of contract is like, oh, wait a minute, I was thinking, you said blue. I thought you meant the blue, the color blue. I didn't know you were talking about the past tense of the word blow. Wait a minute, we were on two different worlds.
And that's right.
And as a paralegal, you're going to have to argue for this person. All right? The lawyer's going to argue. You're going to have to come up with arguments that's going to back up their story. So remember this when I'm saying. Remember this ideology that when you have an offer, whenever there's this communication, the area of communication, look to the people. Look to and this is where the sociology, biology, this is where all the other classes, the reason why you take biology, this is the reason why you take languages, this is why you take math, this is why you take English, because of the fact that all of these come into play. Words come into play. Language comes into play. The person is Spanish or Italian and the person's second language is English, and the offerer knows that, the offerer makes a statement to that person, maybe the person who the offeree didn't understand it. Maybe it just didn't translate right. Maybe it's a word, my wife, when she was an interpreter for the DA's office, she was one of the few interpreters that spoke to the witnesses prior before they went into the grand jury. The reason why was she wanted to know where was this person from, the Spanish-speaking person from. Just because she speaks Spanish doesn't mean every single word is the same. All right? And in this one situation, it was key to this trial. The witness went in and said, the man had a gun. And in this particular dialect, the generic term for gun was revolver, which in English means revolver. And in English, in gunsmith, a revolver is a specific type of gun. A revolver is where the bullet, when you put it into the chamber, it spins, it revolves, that's the way it's termed. When you fire, that chamber spins and the next bullet goes into the chamber. The casing stays within the chamber, the revolver, the revolving area. Automatic and semi-automatic, when I fire in an automatic, the clip pushes, as soon as I fire, it shoots out the capsule, the casing, and the spring pushes up the next bullet. Okay? So in one, the casing stays in, the other it stays out. It was crucial to the case whether or not the casing stayed in or out, because the witness said, I saw the defendant fire, or I saw a flash, and I saw something popping out of the gun. The defendant was saying, I had a revolver. Said that the other person had the gun, and he was shooting at me. Okay? And they found the casings. So when he said revolver, my wife, because she spoke to him at the time, said gun. She said the generic term gun. What type of gun? What happened? Well, I saw him shoot, and then the bullet came from, the casing came out. That meaning it was an automatic. At trial, the interpreter, certificate interpreter, court interpreter, when he said revolver, she said a revolver. The man had a revolver. At which point, the defense attorney's like, great, this is our out. Because the defendant is saying that the other person fired at him. So he's saying, the witness is saying that the defendant had the revolver. So if he had the revolver, then the bullet casings wouldn't have been on the floor. It had to be the other guy shooting at me, and it was self-defense. I'm shooting at him because he's shooting at me. Everyone got that? So it was a big deal about whether or not he had a revolver or he had an automatic. Well, there was a big hoopla about that. My wife had to leave the DA, go from the grand jury, go to Supreme Court, get sworn in as a witness, and testify as the interpreter on this case. And she had to explain that, different people from different countries, just because they speak Spanish, there's different dialects, different terms. And do you remember? Yes, I remember him. And if you look at the grand jury minutes, it says gun. And later on, he explains that he saw the defendant shoot. When he shot, he saw the casing coming out of the gun. What term did you use? What term did he use to say gun? He used the dialect in the area as revolver. In his term, it meant gun. But he explained to me, and I said gun, because I asked him, was it, when you say revolver, he said gun, revolver, gun.
Yeah.
It was a gun. And then he explained what happened in terms of the bullet coming out. That's why we knew it was an automatic. And that changed the entire case. So it's a big deal when it comes to negotiating and understanding what the offer is, understanding what people said. I know I took a lot of time on this, but it was really important. Okay. All right. So back to the meeting of the minds. Although the standard in the restatement definition of conscience is clearly objective, many current cases parrot subjective language. Care must be taken when reading cases that use meaning of mind language, and that's why. The manifestation by the offerer must be sufficient to justify an understanding by the offeree that his or her assent to the bargain is invited and will conclude it. A contract will be formed and the offerer will be bound by the contract when the offeree assents. After the offeree accepts the offer, it will be too late for the offeror to unilaterally add, delete, or modify the terms of the offer. And this is on page 51, you get it. And then on page 52, there's that, they were talking about Exhibit 2-2, where, I'll get to that in a second, if I can. Chapter 2 begins with the study of the classical contract law definition of offer. The promisor's promise and consideration for the promisor's promise, and then explores two alternatives to classical consideration. The first involves legislative and judicial tinkering with classical doctrine. The second introduces reliance as an alternative to classical consideration. In most places, they look at reliance as a big issue. Finally, if a classical contract promise, unequivocally assurance, is lacking, an alternative cause of action may exist. Depending on the circumstances, detrimental reliance or unjust enrichment, benefit conferred, courts have recognized a reliance cause of action and a restitution cause of action. We'll get to each of those separately. All right. Now, folks, let me just tell you right now. This is starting to get a little crazy because it's starting to use the offeree, promise. All right. If you don't have the textbook, one of the problems is that it does explain this in a way that you might understand it. If you can't follow because you don't have the textbook, or you can't follow because of the slides, do yourself a favor. Go to YouTube, put in into the search engine, offer, the classical offer. All right, you can put the offer's promise in consideration for that promise. Okay? It's YouTube.
Classic offer?
But this, offer, anything you don't understand. Well, this would be promise. Offers, promise, and consideration for that promise.
Oh, okay.
Or any of these issues that I've discussed. Look to put that information, if you just want to put in the offer, this is what this chapter is, the offer phase. If you pump that into YouTube, you're going to get several different videos, right? Listen to the video, listen to that person explain. Maybe explain it differently than the way I'm trying, but I got news for you. This is common stuff that I learned in law school. All these phrases, all these things I'm taught in law school. Every single law school is teaching this, all right? So what I'm saying is, if you don't have this textbook, go to a library, get yourself another textbook on the laws of contract. They will have this information in there. All right? Don't be lazy. Don't sit there and say, well, I don't have the textbook, so I'm going to rely on these slides. Because yes, these slides will help, but it's not explaining the way the book really is going to explain. And you're going to get lost. Because there's a lot of offer, consideration, offer, the counter offer. It's going to start, I'm going slow because there's a lot of the same sounding information here. And I've been trying to break it down so you guys can understand it. All right? In a way that not only in written here, but visual or by an example. And I think hopefully my examples are helping. All right? But I just want to let you know that it's going to get very, very wordy. Right? But the more you talk about it, the more you use it, it's like another language. The more you use it, the more familiar you are with the words, understanding. All right. So when they talk about manifestation is really demonstration. It's a manifestation of willingness or the demonstration of willingness. Demonstration of willingness to accept the offer is what we look at in terms of whether or not an offer is in fact an offer. And that thing about we sell peas for 35 cents a pound, if the offeree is willing to make that an offer, is willing to accept that as an offer, then we're going to accept it as an offer. We're going to say that that person accepted it as an offer. If the manifestation, the demonstration that it wasn't, then it's not. In other words, if the guy says we sell peas at 35 cents a pound, I walk away. Well, the manifestation or the demonstration is that I didn't accept it as an offer.
So it was just like
It's just a statement. It's just an inquiry of how much does it cost. It's the same thing with, well, how much is the ham? It's 35 cents a pound. 35 cents a pound. Yeah, where the hell is ham? 35 cents. If I knew where that place was, give me 10 pounds. No, it's, Boar's Head ham, $9 a pound. Okay. I just ask because I want to inquire. Am I making an offer to buy it for $9? No.
You just
If I
asking the
said,
question.
okay, give me a pound, now I accepted
That's
that offer
that offer, yeah.
of it not being $9, 9 cents is $9 a pound. But if I just said, oh, okay, all that is just
Question.
the question, the inquiry, and a statement as to my question, okay? So that's when they talk about manifestation and demonstration of willingness. All right, manifestation is another word for the demonstration. Manifest means it shows itself, it appears, it comes out. Demonstration is a little bit more different in that
It's like
demonstration is a little more hard fact because
Right.
it's something you can point out to.
like an example.
This right here. That's where it is. Manifestation means it comes about. It grows. It develops. It develops into it. All right. That's why I'm saying that words have specific meaning, and if I understand that you have, or the person I'm talking to has limited education or limited grasp of certain words, and I start using more powerful words, well, then they're going to start looking at me and saying, well, what was the purpose of you doing that? Were you trying to pull a fast one over the person? Were you trying to belittle that person? I mean, when we're talking about countries, and I'm using words, and the person, the ambassador I'm standing next to, or the agent, the emissary from the other country has limited education as to that language, and I use a word, and it's like, no, it's not, I don't even know what that word means. And I know it, and I use it purposely, because I want to make this person feel like you're talking to the king, and you're a nobody.
Yeah.
You may be the embassy of your king, but you're beneath me.
Yes.
You know? And that's where wars have started. Wars have started because man is a freaking war animal, and he's a freaking egomaniac, and for the most part, European man, I should say.
We got one in the chair.
Well, that's the reason why I say his words are very, 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 very straightforward. And you say, well, that's not what I meant. That's why I put the quote, wiretapping. Dude, you didn't use the word tap. They tapped you didn't say surveillance. I mean, maybe because you couldn't spell the word surveillance. That may be the problem. You may not be able to spell the word surveillance. And therefore, that's why you went wiretap. I mean, the guy's a lot of guys. Never mind. Stop.
He's certainly ghetto uneducated.
But here's the thing, and this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Because of his ability, his manifestation of that's coming up that the man is a liar, countries around the world can't rely on his statements as being the truth.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous thing for America, because we need someone. Okay, you may not like Barack Obama, but when Barack Obama says something and people around the world heard him speak, they realized the man what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah.
And we had 8 years with George W., who was another blazing, but he's not as bad as this guy. All right? At least he came from a family that Bush came from a family that had money, and some character. They sent him to schools that his father went to Yale, he went to Yale. George W. Bush has a master's in business administration from Harvard University. A lot of people don't know that. But okay, even if he went there and his father paid for his money,